Okay, let's dive right into this. Today, we're dissecting an absolutely chilling piece of local folklore. It's a story that starts out with pure paranormal terror, but it slowly unravels into something much darker and honestly far more human. We are looking at the anatomy of a legend, the story of the cursed railway station. So get ready, because this is going to be a pretty wild ride. Picture this. It's exactly 3 a.m. A train grinds to a halt at a completely deserted railway station. The wind is howling outside, and the passengers inside, they're terrified. Nobody's getting off, the doors are locked, and the windows are shut completely tight. Suddenly, a woman asks her husband why the train isn't moving. Out of the shadows, an old man approaches and shushes her with this chilling warning, "Keep quiet, those two witches are outside." We are dropped right into the middle of an absolute nightmare, where a simple transit stop has literally become a perimeter of fear.
And the threat out there? It is horrifyingly real. There's a young passenger named Raghav, and he's just traveling back to his village. Ignoring that heavy, tense silence, he spots a tea seller and a garbage collector out on the platform. Craving a hot drink, he reaches his hand out the window. But the second the vendor grabs his hand, she violently transforms into a terrifying entity. Before Raghav can even scream for help, the garbage collector joins the attack, brutally ending his life right there at the window. The sudden graphic shock of this violence sends the entire train into absolute chaos.
Which leads us to a really fascinating question. What happens when a deserted railway station at 3 a.m. becomes a trap for the living? How does a basic piece of public infrastructure turn into a hunting ground? To understand this, we've got to look past the immediate blood and horror. We really need to treat this like a cold case investigation. Because, as you'll see, these entities weren't always monsters waiting in the dark.
Now, what's really interesting and honestly truly tragic is the stark contrast between hope and sheer brutality here. Before they were the monsters haunting the station, they were Rita and Sita, just two innocent sisters from the village of Sambalpur. Having recently lost their parents, they were orphaned, totally vulnerable, and just traveling to the city to seek refuge with their uncle. On the flip side, you have the station vendors they encountered, people who appeared completely harmless but were actually cold-blooded killers just waiting for the perfect victims.
Let's actually walk through the timeline of that fateful night from months prior. At exactly 10 p.m., Rita and Sita's train halts at this exact deserted station. By 10:15 p.m., hungry and deeply thirsty, the sisters make the tragic choice to step off the train to find some tea and water. At 10:30 p.m., Rita asks the garbage collector for a drink and is deceitfully lured into a dark, locked room. And by 10:45 p.m., both sisters meet a violent, merciless end at the hands of the garbage collector and the tea seller.
But the tragedy doesn't just stop with their last breath. The government investigations hit a complete dead end. There was absolutely no evidence left behind, meaning no justice was ever served for these two girls. Left in this violent, forgotten limbo, the spirits of the sisters transformed into vengeful entities. A terrifying cycle of station murders began, where they inflicted the exact same brutal fate on stranded passengers that they themselves suffered. The failure of the justice system birthed a literal curse.
But hold on, here's where we really have to dig deeper. The vendors at the station, they were merely the executioners. So why would they randomly target two penniless orphan girls? Who was the real mastermind behind these brutal deaths? This single question pivots our entire explainer from a simple, tragic ghost story into a deep, chilling conspiracy.
So let's chase how this investigation actually unfolds, step by step. Remember that old man from the train? Well, he decides he can't just sit back and let the killings continue. Step 1, he travels to the city to find the sisters' family. Step 2, he discovers their uncle recently passed away. Step 3, the aunt, Urmila, hands over this mysterious address she found in her late husband's pocket. And finally, Step 4, that address trail leads directly to a famous tantric Baba, a mystic who knows exactly what went down.
And boom, here is the stunning twist. The dark motive wasn't supernatural at all. It was greed. Pure, unadulterated human greed for ancestral village land. The murders weren't random. They were a targeted hit. And the person who ordered the assassination of Rita and Sita was their very own uncle, Natulal. With their parents dead, the girls were the only obstacle standing between him and total control of the family land.
Talk about instant karma, right? Let's look at Uncle Nathulal's fate. He successfully orchestrated the assassination of his nieces. But soon after, he started hearing the terrifying whispers of the cursed railway station. He knew exactly who those witches were. The guilt, combined with the sheer, paralyzing terror that they might come for him, consumed him entirely. He died suddenly of a terrified heart attack. It's a dark, poetic irony. He secured the land through blood, but his own fear ensured he never even lived to enjoy it.
So the absolutely crucial point here is how the truth acts as the ultimate weapon against the curse. The old man and the tantric return to the station for a 3 a.m. exorcism. First, the tantric confronts the raging witches with the actual truth of their death. Then, he performs a ritual to summon Uncle Nathalaw's spirit directly to the platform. He literally forces the uncle into a confession right in front of the sisters, and finally cleanses the entities with holy water.
The emotional arc of this whole explainer really peaks right about here. Nathalaw's spirit, bound and exposed, just completely breaks down in front of the monstrous forms of his nieces. He pleads, "Daughters, forgive me, I made a terrible mistake." He expresses this immense, heavy regret. After months of blind rage and violent revenge, Rita and Sita finally hear the admission of guilt and betrayal that they had been denied in life.
And this perfectly illustrates the core moral of this entire tragedy. As the tantric notes, often our own are the ones who betray us. The horrifying monsters outside the train window were terrifying, sure, but the true monster was sitting comfortably at home, plotting against his own blood. This folklore so perfectly wraps a profound, universal human truth about trust and greed right inside a terrifying ghost story.
So, with the truth fully revealed and that apology spoken, the cycle of violence finally shatters. The cursed station is at peace as the spirits of Rita and Sita find their salvation. The holy water cleanses their rage, and the sisters are finally freed from the horrific, vengeful loop they were trapped in. Forgiveness, and above all, the truth, proved to be so much stronger than the darkest of curses. It really makes you rethink the stories you've been told, doesn't it? What other terrifying urban legends are actually just covering up human greed and betrayal? How many ghost stories out there are really just echoes of a hidden, very human crime? I want you to take that thought with you. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep questioning the world around you, and I'll catch you in the next one.